Felt like a monster inside. I felt like somebody was taking me over, controlling my actions, controlling my thoughts, controlling every movement that I made. I suffer from a disorder called obsessive compulsive disorder. For short, it's OCD. There's two parts of that. The first part's obsessions. Obsessions are essentially unwanted thoughts, images, and impulses that are extremely repetitive and extremely distressing. Compulsions are quite simply, the actions, whether it's mental or physical, that ease the obsession. My earliest memory of OCD when I was a really young child, all the other kids were basically playing in the dirt, getting food on their hands, getting food on their face. I didn't want to have any dirt near me. I didn't even want to stand in my sandbox. As my illness progressed, I started noticing I was washing my hands a lot more. It went from a certain amount of times to actually ended up taking a really long time, constantly watering my hands, watering off the tap that I was using. From there, that went on for quite a while, and then from there, I actually I found Lysol more or less, started using Lysol on my hands, on my legs, on my face, my head, and as my illness progressed even further, it got to the fact that even doing laundry was a chore. So I would do the laundry, get everything in a basket, get it downstairs, but on the way up, if it hit anything, I'd have to, the minute that I got upstairs, I would have to wash it, and I washed it anyways. I found that when I went through the door or went through, into my apartment, at the time period, brought in the shower, and there was kind of a routine with it of washing this basket out. Sometimes there'd be soap in it, sometimes there wasn't. When I went down to kind of get it out of the laundry, put it in the dryer, if it touched anything, I'd have to go back up again, and that was quite a long process. I started to drink more and more throughout the day, and it ended up being a little bit to a lot more. And I was drinking a lot every single day. I was smoking pot every single day. It was a living nightmare. It felt like almost being trapped inside my own body, and I could never escape it 24 hours. Well, other than when I was sleeping, I could never escape it. It felt like somebody was taking me over and controlling every move that I made, every thought that I had, and I didn't have anything but to try to repeat doing it 1,000 times to get rid of the pain.
I'd really get them to look at how much is it impacting their life. If it's causing problems with interpersonal relationships or they're having a hard time at work, then it's a good idea to get some professional advice and to at least know what your options are.
As my illness worsened, it actually started to affect my relationships. A lot of people didn't really understand what I was going through, although they tried. It ended up affecting my job. Co-worker beside me had noticed I was actually starting to water my chair down, Lysol and Windex, parts of my desk. And a co-worker noticed this, and I had to explain to him. I kind of brushed him off or tried to brush it off with him, but he noticed and knew, he thought it was pretty strange, what the hell is this guy doing? From there, at its absolute worst, I didn't even want to live anymore. I felt like, the only thing that I could do to hold on to myself is that I didn't want to be around, but for my family and my friends, that I'll try one last effort to try to help myself. Other than that, I'm done.
The main goal of CBT is to reduce your anxiety or depression. There's a few ways that we do that. Mostly we're interested in how your thoughts and your feelings and behaviors interact. CBT works on the premise that for every situation we go into, we have certain thoughts or assumptions about what's going on, and we try and make sense of it. Based on that, we're going to feel a certain way and then act a certain way. So there are two main tools that we use in CBT. The first is by trying to identify any irrational thoughts or cognitions, and by trying to modify them so the person doesn't have as many negative thoughts, therefore not as many negative emotions.
What happened is I normally enjoy driving, and I noticed this one time that I was driving, I hit a bump, and it instantly freaked me out. I was terrorized. I had the fear. It felt like I actually ran someone over or an animal. With that fear and terror, I actually I just had to drive around, come back, notice that it's a bump, stare right at it, notice that what it was one, and then the minute that I hit it again, essentially the fear and the terror came back, and I had to start that whole process all over again. And it goes on I've had it go on for half an hour, just driving around and around and around.
The other main approach we use is called exposure therapy or experiments. And what we do there is we have people either imagine something that they fear and talk about their feelings about it, their thoughts about it, how they would act if it was actually happening. That's called imaginal exposure. And then there's in vivo exposure, where we'll actually take people out of the office, which is a little bit unconventional for therapy, and we'll take them to the situations that they most fear. The idea with exposures is that if you can stay in the situation long enough, the anxiety-provoking situation, your anxiety habituates, or eventually you basically get used to it. But the idea is doing it in a very gradual, stepwise fashion.
What basically happens is when you get your obsession, it's almost instantaneously that the compulsion or the ritual happens. So there's no real break in between. It's like, and then you do it. When I was driving, I'm driving down the road, I hit a bump, it's instantaneous, like crash or crack, I just ran over somebody. And I want to turn around and have to look through the rear view. What exposure teaches me is basically, or teaches you, is to, I would hit the bump and I would just keep driving and sit with that feeling and sit with the anxiety and before it would go away. And eventually over time it goes away. So, and you can hold off for 30 seconds and eventually it ends up being, you can hold off all day.
I think having experienced anxiety in the past with performing, I think I have a good understanding of what it feels like. So when clients are often describing a lot of the physical symptoms of anxiety, I know what that feels like. I know how nerve-wracking it can be and how it makes you sick to your stomach. And so I think that helps me relate to people. And then the other thing is that I have applied these CBT tools to my own life, and I've seen that by changing the way I think can change the way I feel. And so I think it's easier for me to sell that to others, having experienced it myself.
With CBT, it's been about a year and a month, and I've found a drastic difference in my life. It's made a huge difference in such a shorter period of time. A lot of my obsessions and the compulsions, the hit and run fears, the hand washing, that kind of stuff is actually not part of my life anymore. My life before treatment was actually a living hell. It felt like I was trapped in my own mind. Every day was a struggle from the moment that I got up to the moment that I fell asleep at night. After treatment, it's actually great. I feel like a brand new me. There's a whole new life, new opportunities available, and I can actually live each day and look forward to getting up. Please know that you are more than just your illness. You don't want you to have to be ashamed anymore. I struggled for a long time before I got help, and I don't want to see you do the same. I want you to be able to get the help that you desperately need.